Good morning everyone, Stuart here at Castlebank Horticultural Centre in Lanark. Today I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tour round about the centre and the gardens within Castlebank Park, because today is the first day of spring. So there's lots happening. This is a very busy time of the year for us. So this is one of our raised beds within our growing compound. And what we've been doing, we've taken out all of the dead plants from last year, and in this bed this year we're going to be growing tatties, we're going to be growing potatoes. So what we've done is we've put in lots of old compost. So we've got hold of some old used spent compost and some fresh as well, and the worms are going to take that into the soil a little bit over the next few weeks. And then we will plant our potatoes at the end of this month. So at the end of March, start of April, that's a good time to get your seed potatoes in the ground, whether you're growing them in the ground or in a raised bed or in a pot. So we're in one of the polytunnels, and you can see we've got lots of plants coming on. So these are all going to be for sale throughout this year. Many of them will be ready kind of in June, beginning of June, but some before that. And they're all perennial plants, so they're hardy. You don't need to worry about frost with any of these. So yeah, hope you can pop down. And then on this side we've got some propagators, and here we've got lots and lots of seeds coming on, and we'll start many of the vegetables in here before hardening them off, getting them accustomed to being outside, and then they'll go out. So we've got lots and lots of nice little seedlings in there. So we're just at the Horticultural Centre, and you can see there's lots and lots of the herbaceous perennials. So all of these plants, they're all springing to life. This one here is called Centaurea montana, so that's a perennial cornflower, and that's one of the first things that really comes into leaf. So we've got quite a few of these dotted round about, because it gives you that nice early leaf, whereas other things much smaller, they're going to take another couple of weeks before they actually look anything substantial. So here, just looking at our honeybee hive. So I'm keeping my distance, I don't want to get too close at this point, but they're very busy. They've come out of their kind of winter sleep. Not that they go completely to sleep in the winter, but they're very inactive over the winter. They like to stay in the hive. But now there's flowers coming out all over the place, and you can see them whizzing off, hundreds of them at a time. And I can actually see, if we look really closely, you can see the pollen on the legs of the bees. So we can actually tell that they're going to crocus at the moment. There's lots of crocus flowering in the park and round about, and the bright orange pollen is on the honeybees' legs. So we're just down here in the Fairydale now in Castlebank Park, just having a wee look at the bulbs, the flowering, early flowering bulbs. So the snowdrops were the first out, and they're starting to go over now. And then we've got the crocus. If we look, you can see the bright orange pollen, and we saw that on the legs of the honeybees. So they're taking advantage of all this nice pollen in the crocus. And then the first daphies are coming up as well. And then the tulips should follow that. So we've got a really nice little patch here, just by the willow tunnel. Nice succession: snowdrops, crocus, daffodils, and some tulips. So down here we're in the bog garden, just looking at the wildlife pond. So all of the plants are starting to grow. This has been frozen. It was frozen for about 2 months, and there's the first signs. There's lots and lots of frog spawn over here, and we've actually spotted a frog. So I don't want to get too close, but the frog's just there. So you might see that on the camera. So this is the frog, and the individual frogs laying these huge bunches, hundreds of eggs. I'm sure there's more than one in here. Yeah, so it's been busy. And as the water warms up, these eggs will develop and the tadpoles will start to hatch. So come down and have a look. So we're here still in the bog garden, and we're in the other half. So the wildlife pond is over there, and we're just standing in some of the wildlife meadow areas, and there's lots and lots of things springing through now. Lots of bulbs and lots of native wildflower species. We've had a problem with rabbits in the park, so we hope that the rabbits don't eat all of our tulips and all of that fresh growth that's coming through, and they leave some of them for us. But please come down and visit. End of April, probably going to be around the peak of when the flowering in this area of the park. Here we have one of the park's older rhododendrons, and all of the flower buds are just swelling up on this right now. So best time to come and see this would be in May. If you've got your own in your own garden, make sure you don't do any pruning at this time of year, because if you prune them, you're going to cut off all of those big flowers. So definitely wait. If you want to cut it down in size a little bit, wait until after it's flowered. Down in the rose garden, it's nice and warm today. So this is probably the warmest part of the park. You can see all the roses, the buds are starting to break. We've got daffodils, they're out. So whilst the ones up in the Fairydale are still in buds, the ones down here have opened because it's a nice warm sunny spot. So they're probably a week or two ahead. Just in the other part of the rose garden, we've got a very colourful display planned for the bedding round about the roses. Many of the paths have been redone. We've got a lot of help from Skills Exchange, so young adults, and as well the community payback that helped us a great deal in moving, I think it was about 10 tonnes of the red stone. So this is going to reduce the weeding massively for our volunteers. They don't need to weed the paths in the rose garden anymore, because we've got a nice thick layer of the gravel. Yeah, very sunny, lovely, so come and have a picnic at your next opportunity. Down here we've got the long border behind me. We've got the Margaret Wilson rock garden in front of me. So this is really coming to life now. Lots of these little alpines, they tend to come out and flower fairly early. We've got a nice succession over the next 6 months or so. Same for in the long border. So we've got a nice combination of plants in there. It's all been cleared out, it's all been weeded, and it's ready to go. So we're here, this is the boundary with St Patrick's Road. So we've got this long wall heading up to the horticultural centre. Lots of bulbs in here, so this is great. We've had the snowdrops, they're over. Now we've got lots of nice crocus, and the honeybees have been visiting these to get the pollen. And then, yeah, really nice variety of daffodils. So quite a few different colours and shapes. So they're starting to come out, probably next 2 weeks they're going to be popping out. And that'll look really nice from all over the park. From a different angle, we're still in the wall with all the daffodils underneath. We've got here this avenue of lime trees. So all of these, all the way down from this one, right down to the entrance of the park, are lime. And put in a little ID so you can tell lime trees from the twigs, and the buds are alternating, so they're not opposite each other on the stem, and they're quite this red, often pinkish purple sometimes depending on the tree. And the bees, very, very important for our honeybees. So each of these trees is going to flower in May, and we call that the lime flow because there's so much nectar going back to the beehive, and each tree is going to have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of flowers. So you can really smell it and hear it when you walk underneath these lime trees as they flower. We've got a few others throughout the park. The big mature trees that you can see are also limes. And around the base of that tree, you can see all the shoots, and it's starting to happen on this one. So that's another sign of these garden limes. It's because they like to shoot lots of branches from the bottom of the tree. And in that big mature one, That's a great place for birds to nest as well. So there's going to be some robin nests probably up in those clusters, all those tangle of stems. Yeah, so you could even plant one of these in your garden, and you can just, if it gets too big, you just chop it and it'll just grow back. Finally, before we go, just wanted to point out that throughout the park we've got many of the trees that are identified by these little plaques, and you can actually pick up one of our little guidebooks at the entrance at the car park. There's a little plastic box that you can open up and get some of our guides. And there's a little map on there, and the trees are identified on the map. There's also wildflowers, so different things, and it tells you when they will flower throughout the year. So that's definitely a few hours worth of activity. If you've got some kids, get them out in the good weather, come and look at trees, try and identify them, and you'll spot that all the bees and the butterflies coming to life at the same time and visiting those flowers. So a little adventure for the weekend. That's us for today. Thanks for joining us. We hope this good weather continues, and we hope to see you visiting the horticultural centre as soon as we can. We will be open as soon as all the garden centres are allowed to open. Then we will be open for our plant sales, and we'll open the gates. So thanks again, and see you next time.